Welcome back to Empowering the Educator Within. I'm your host, Christina Shala, and today we're continuing our deep dive into IB planning that actually works. If you've been tuning in, you'll remember that in episode 26, we introduced a solution to a common challenge in IB schools: how to move beyond mission statements and into meaningful, unified planning. That's where the transdisciplinary framework came in, a visual structure designed to connect subject areas and support true collaboration. Then, in episode 27, we got real about what happens after a great team meeting. The ideas were flying, the energy was high, and then the next morning hit. Suddenly, no one could quite remember what they were supposed to do with all those ideas. We called it the brainstorm hangover. And let's be honest, we've all had one. So, how do we go from collective vision to individual action? That's what today's episode is all about. We're going to explore the second half of the transdisciplinary framework, the part that lives in each teacher's hands, the individualized planners. And since you're listening, rather than looking at the visuals from the blog article, we're going to paint a picture together. Imagine your last unit planning meeting. The team's gathered around a table or a shared screen with the planning grid in front of them. Your team transdisciplinary planner. It's filled with provocations, shared standards, learning goals and concepts. Everyone contributes. Everyone's inspired. Now, freeze that moment, because what happens next, what happens after that meeting, is what makes or breaks your school's transdisciplinary approach. Each teacher walks away with their own goals, their own students, and their own subject areas to bring to life. But instead of planning in silos, what if their individual planners were actually extensions of that team brainstorm? That's what the right-hand side of the transdisciplinary framework represents. Individualized planners, built to keep the team's shared vision alive in every classroom. Let's walk through 3 real examples: a specialist teacher, a mainstream teacher, and an ELL teacher. We'll imagine how each of them might use a planner designed just for their role. Let's say our first teacher is responsible for performing arts. At the top of their weekly planner is a column titled Transdisciplinary Links Week 1. This is where they pause before diving into their own subject and revisit what was shared during the team brainstorm. One colleague, a mainstream classroom teacher, is exploring the central idea: stories can be used to share experiences and connect people across time and place, with a focus on narrative writing through the key concept form. As part of the same unit, they're also guiding students through mathematical concepts like sequencing and patterning. The performing arts teacher sees an opportunity, a role-play activity to explore storytelling through gesture and voice, or a movement sequence to represent key events in a narrative. They also consider integrating rhythmic patterns or choreographed sequences to reflect the mathematical structure of a story, linking naturally to the classroom teacher's focus on both language and logic. In this way, drama, rhythm, and movement become tools to help students internalize ideas across disciplines. Next comes the planning column for the week itself. Here they jot down relevant standards, key concepts, lines of inquiry, and learner profiles. They sketch out experiences, group scenes, music pieces, improvisation activities that connect to those broader ideas. And they list assessments and resources needed. But what really makes the planner dynamic is the section for student-driven inquiry. After each lesson, the teacher notes what emerged, questions asked, ideas sparked, and reflections that surfaced. These insights feed into upcoming learning experiences and assessments, creating a feedback loop that keeps the learning responsive and student-centered. The layout repeats for week 2, and the cycle continues, horizontally extending across the planner for the duration of the unit. Now, picture a mainstream teacher covering language arts, math, and unit of inquiry. Rather than separate planners for each subject, they're working from one integrated view that allows them to draw natural connections across disciplines. Column 1 again starts with transdisciplinary links. This teacher notes that the performing arts colleague is supporting the unit's central idea through expressive storytelling and dramatization. In their own lessons, they're guiding students in crafting written narratives and analyzing story structure. Meanwhile, in math, they're introducing sequencing and patterning, concepts that not only support logical thinking, but also mirror the rhythmic flow and progression found in both performance and written storytelling. It all weaves together, reinforcing the unit's big ideas through different lenses. The planner is structured with each subject in its own column for the week, and each follows the same planning flow. Standards, concepts, prior connections, global context, and eventually space to add student agency and inquiries as the unit progresses. Daily lesson rows provide enough space to jot down provocations, learning experiences, and differentiated assessments for each subject. The vertical structure lets the teacher plan Monday through Friday in one smooth flow with prompts to reflect and adjust as needed. Unlike the specialist planner, it's designed to grow week 2, week 3, and so on, always circling back to those shared team goals. Finally, let's imagine a teacher who supports English language learners and is assigned to one specific class, providing consistent, embedded support day to day rather than rotating between multiple classrooms. They revisit the team brainstorm, noting where language support is most needed, particularly in the narrative writing unit focused on story structure and expressive vocabulary. They also identify opportunities to support mathematical learning, especially around patterning and sequencing, where students need to understand terms like pattern, sequence, repeat, rule, and predict. By planning targeted scaffolds across both subjects, the ELL teacher ensures learners can access the key academic language needed to participate confidently in the unit, whether they're constructing a story or analyzing a visual pattern. Their planner includes columns for each subject area they'll be supporting. For each one, they'll fill in language standards, vocabulary targets, and grammar goals. If CFER levels are being used, those go here too. Then come the ideas for scaffolding: sentence frames, graphic organizers, modeled writing, or visuals. They note which students will need which supports and what resources they'll need to prep. Their lesson plans are detailed vertically by day, just like the mainstream teachers. Each lesson includes space to plan provocations, learning experiences, vocabulary targets, and assessments. And perhaps most importantly, a spot to record teacher and student reflections. These notes can then be shared with the mainstream or specialist teachers to help adjust upcoming lessons in real time. And again, the planner grows with each week, keeping the ELL teacher aligned with the team and responsive to the learners. So, what's the common thread across all three planners? Connection. Every individual planner is rooted in the same team brainstorm. No one's making it up in isolation. No one's planning in a vacuum. Each teacher is not just consuming ideas from the group. They're actively using them to design intentional, integrated learning experiences. And when students move from one classroom to the next, they're not encountering fragmented units or clashing concepts. They're experiencing a unified learning journey shaped by a shared vision and translated through each teacher's lens. This is how we cure the brainstorm hangover. This is how we make transdisciplinary planning actually work. And this is how we empower every educator, regardless of their subject, to take part in something bigger than their own classroom. If you're ready to get started on your own set of individualized planners, or you're curious what this framework could look like in your context, we've got you covered. You'll find detailed examples of these planners in Empowering the Educator Within, both the book and its practical workbook, designed to bring your planning to life. And if you're looking for editable digital versions that can evolve with your school's needs, head over to ESB Planners, our software platform built to bring this system to life. You can also check out the full blog article at shalabooks.com, where we've included diagrams and sample layouts to help you visualize what we discussed today. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, keep empowering the educator within.